I'm Jason from Rebalance Sports Medicine, and today I'm here to talk a little bit about ergonomics. Before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about ergonomics from the standpoint of most people's experience is that they have a checklist and they go through the checklist and basically they know that ergonomics is you got to sit straight. I'm going to go through a little bit more detail so that we understand it in a little bit more depth. So to begin with, I'm going to use a prop. This is a gizmo that I use for my work, and I'm going to use this to kind of explain a principle, and this principle applies to everything. So let's say my job is to grab something, and I grab it all day long. That's all I do. It's actually something that your body does very well. In particular, these muscles in here are very strong and they have very good endurance and they grab very well. Now, if I go from here to here, I've only changed a little bit, but a lot of things have changed in that process. I've just lost half my grip strength. I've got tendons that are now rubbing through there, and I've got pressure on nerves that are going through there. So although I only changed a wee little bit, that's enough to start causing problems in the long run. Really, ergonomics is about when you do something either repeatedly or over a prolonged period of time, that's how it affects your body. You can do pretty much whatever you want in the short term, but if you're doing stuff over a long period of time, that's where you're going to start running into problems. So when that comes to this whole setup, ergonomics is very straightforward. All you're doing is you're setting up everything according to your body, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that as far as the different things that we have to watch for yellow flags. So each zone, so we got 3 zones plus 1. We got the chair zone, keyboard zone, and monitor zone, and the plus 1 is standing. And each of them have their own yellow flags. We'll start with standing. So when you're standing, actually we can bring this up to a good height. When we're standing, the yellow flag with that is actually the circulatory system. Your heart is very high compared to your feet. So when you're standing, the circulation goes down really easy, but then to fight gravity to come back up is where it runs into problems. So in particular, the example would be the British Guard. They're the guys that look very stiff. They're standing there with their hat and gun and all that kind of stuff. But what they're doing is they're not stiff. If you come to the side, what you'll see is that they're rocking back and forth very slowly. And the reason is the blood vessels filter through the muscles, and as the muscles tighten up, the calf muscles, as they tighten up and relax and tighten up and relax, what happens is it acts like another heart and it keeps the circulation going. So that's why everybody has these lovely sit-stand desks and they almost never use them. When you're standing, it's stressful. If you're standing in line, you're going to want to sit. It's what we want to do is we want to use these as effectively as possible. So usually what you're going to want to do is use these in a standing position for as long as you can handle, bring it to the lower setting, and then use it in the lower position until you take a break and then reset it. Start from a standing position, go to a lower position. And that's the way you're going to actually get used to it instead of just having a really expensive regular desk. So as far as the 3 regular zones, we have generally certain trends that go along with each zone. In particular, with the chair zone, we tend to get things like leg and back injuries. With the keyboard zone, we tend to get things like hand, wrist, and shoulder injuries. And with the monitor zone, we tend to get things like eye strain and neck strain. So what we want to do is, if you're feeling anything in particular, you look at that particular zone. So the standing zone is actually very similar to the chair zone in that you tend to get things like leg and back injuries when you're standing for too long, prolonged standing in particular. So as far as the chair zone, we want to adjust the chair according to what we need, but first we want to go into the yellow flag. So the yellow flag, as far as the chair, is the muscle at the back of the legs. So there's that muscle in particular attaches to both the knee and the hip. So when we bend the knee and the hip to sit, that muscle becomes tight. And in the process of it becoming tight, it pulls on the hips do this, and we end up sitting really bad like this. Or you might have noticed your colleagues and they're sitting in their chair like this. What they're doing is they're trying to adapt for that tightness of this muscle. So the thing that makes it tighter is bringing your feet forward or leaning forward. Both of those add extra stress to both the back and the legs. So the other thing is leaning back, that opens up this hip angle and takes stress off that muscle as well. So that's where sitting like this feels comfortable. You don't have that extra stress based on that muscle. So in particular, when I talk to people, I like to emphasize what we want to do is not be sitting perched forward on your chair, because there's a lot of stress that goes along with that. We want to sit all the way back in the chair, squish your bottom in between the seat and the backrest, and lean back in the chair. Now the chair has a number of different adjustments, and we want to take a look at that really quickly. So of course we have an adjustment that makes the chair go up or down. So we want to adjust it accordingly. So when you come to your chair, you're going to test it with your knee. When you put your knee to it, this edge should be a little bit below your kneecap. Usually if it's a regular chair, it's going to be sitting in that little bit of a groove right below your knee. But in this case, it's just about an inch lower. And that way we know that when we sit, this is going to be at a good height. Again, sitting all the way back, leaning back over here. So this is where we have the height adjustment for the chair. We can go up or down, of course. And over here, we have the tilt adjustments. So right, this larger ring is for adjusting the backrest. So as we bring it all the way back, that gives us a larger range. As we bring this forward, that keeps this upright. So now it's locked, it won't go back. So there's 4 clicks, depending on how far back you want to go. That goes along with this control right here. This is for the tension of that control. We bring it forward in order to balance it for our weight. We don't want to feel like we're falling when we sit. We want to feel like we have to push a little bit. Remember the standing, the muscles filtering through? We want to get those muscles working, and we can actually use this as a rocking chair in order to get a little bit of movement if we can't get up and move. So backwards is to loosen it, forward is to tighten it up. The other control is this right here. This is control if you're doing paperwork. So what happens is if you tilt this forward, it allows the chair to tilt forward. And what that does is it lowers the knees compared to the hips. So if you're doing a lot of work, if you're doing a lot of writing on your desk, it allows you to keep that hip angle open. So it does this, so it keeps that hip angle open so that you can do the work on the desk in a comfortable position. If you're not doing that, generally speaking, you're going to want to keep this back. Okay? All right. Well, with the chair, we have this lower back support. We can adjust that. It goes with these controls. This is more intensity, and then backwards is less intensity. You can see that there's a negative and a positive. So if you want more support, you turn it towards the plus and less support towards the negative. Now the armrests, I actually consider part of the keyboard zone, which is the next zone, because they have to do with positioning of the shoulders. So as far as the shoulders, the yellow flags are the shoulders don't like turtling, winging, and reaching outside of the shoulder width. So the shoulder width being here, once you start going outside, small muscles get overloaded and you get a bunch of different problems. So what we want to do is when you're sitting all the way back in the chair, the armrest might be out like this, bring them in so it's underneath your arms. And then what we want to do is we want to adjust them up so they're supporting the arms without changing the position of the shoulders. So we can bring it up or down with this lever right here. We unlock it, and then we bring it up. So it's supporting the elbow without changing the position of the shoulders. Nice and neutral and relaxed. And once this is in position, we compare that against the height of the desk. So what we're looking for is that this height is the same as this height. You have a desk that moves up and down. So we're gonna adjust it so that it's at the same height. All right, so when these are in position, we come to here, and what we'll see is the standard way of using this. So with this being the standard way, let's look at it from the standpoint of ergonomics again. So an engineer designed this with the standpoint that they want everybody to use their right hand for everything. You're going to be typing mostly with your right, number pad with your right, and mouse with your right. The problem with that is we tend to overuse our right hand, but we also get alignment issues. So when you're typing, we got this in front of us. We have to reach to the side and we get this thing going on when we're typing. So that's not ideal. It's called ulnar deviation. The number pad then is in a good place, but now we're reaching outside the shoulder in order to use the mouse. So we have, again, the pressure on those various small stretches of the shoulder. So what would be ideal is, and before that actually, see these feet? We never use these feet. These feet are designed to point this at your face, so as you're hunting and pecking with 1 or 2 fingers, you can see them. Otherwise, we never use them. So we put that nice and flat. Now, as far as alignment, what we want to do is ignore the mouse for the moment. We want to bring the keyboard so it's right in front with the letters. Remember, B for belly button. So everything is in a nice alignment. So that's neutral for typing, that's neutral for the number pad. Now the mouse that was already in a bad position is actually in a worse position. The ideal thing to do is actually bring this over to the left-hand side. And the reason for that is now it's in line with the shoulder. So what we get is really good positioning for everything. And now the left arm, instead of being not used very much, is actually getting some use. So I work in some places and the person will be like, my left arm is killing me, but I'm not even doing anything with it. Well, underuse is often as bad as overuse. So now we're not overusing the right, we're not underusing the left, we're getting that balance. We're going back and forth between the mouse and the keyboard. So it's a little bit more than just a little bit of typing, a little bit of shortcuts. It actually keeps the body much healthier. So this right here is the perfect way of using your keyboard and mouse. I just want to throw in a little bit of a caveat, and the thing is, it's a pain in the butt to get used to. Don't go into this with the mindset of, I'm just going to start using it and everything will be wonderful and all that kind of stuff. It does do amazing things and you'll never regret learning how to do it, but it will be problematic in the short term. So you'll be trying to get used to it, you'll be making a little bit of errors, and you're really not going to want to stick with it. Usually people get to the point where they're in a lot of pain before they start doing this, but then once you get doing it, you never regret learning how to do it. So I'm throwing it out there. This is free, it goes wherever you go, and it solves most of the problems that you're going to experience when you're working in an office like this. So that's this right here. The next zone is the monitor zone, and the yellow flag with this is the head is actually a very large structure compared to the bones and muscles that support it. So if you actually look into the research, what it shows is that as little as 5 degrees in any direction can be problematic. Muscles start shortening, muscles start lengthening. When your head's forward, the openings for the nerves get smaller. There's a whole bunch of different problems that you can run into. So what we want to do is we want to align the head properly. We use the whole of the ear for that. Whole of the ear in line with the bone at the bottom of the eye, that's considered straight across. Whole of the ear in line with the body, that's considered up and down. So with this, you're going to want to keep your head in a good position and look with your eyes, not your neck. You always look with your eyes. Try to move your head as little as possible and keep it in a good position. Now, there's a few exercises that you can do during your day to kind of counteract some of these things. Of course, take a look at your, connect with a medical professional, that kind of thing, depending on what the situation is. But for the hamstring, this muscle of the back, it's very easy to stretch it. So let's say I have to touch my toes. I can do that fairly easy by just bending like that, but if I keep everything straight, it's not too far that I go before I get stopped. This muscle stops. So keeping everything straight, when you are sitting, it's the same thing. Put your foot forward, lean a little bit forward, and you can get a really good stretch very easily when you're at your desk. Hold it for at least 30 seconds. That'll help this muscle that tightens up naturally when you're sitting anyway. It'll help keep it looser and less problematic for you. For the shoulders, they tend to come forward when you're sitting. So the reverse of that would be squeeze those shoulder blades back together in one way, shape, or form. And then the head, we also want to keep it in a good position. So if you put your hand to your chin, hold your hand and bring your head back. You either hold it, and then when you relax, sometimes what you'll find is that it doesn't come back to your hand again. So that's actually a more ideal position for it. Or you can just kind of go back, relax, back, relax, back, relax. But basically what we're trying to do is teach our bodies where your head naturally balances as compared to like this, which naturally happens when you are driving and let's say you're tilted all the way back. What your head does is it comes forward to balance on your body. So now you stand up and your head is forward. So what we need to do is counteract that during your day. That is just as far as that. Now the eyes are actually weird in a whole bunch of different ways. And one of the ways that the eyes are weird is they like to look off in the distance and down, but they don't look up very easily. So when you're looking up, because the monitor is too high in particular, what happens is these muscles get tired very quickly and then end up with a posture like this, which is again problematic because of the narrowing of the opening for the nerves coming through. So what we want to do is we want everything at or below eye level, ideally. There's certain cases where we can have it a bit higher, so we're kind of keeping our eye line in the top third, but really ideally our eye level at monitor height is really, the top of the monitor is really the ideal. So that's the gist as far as ergonomics. So have yourselves a wonderful day.